Hey guys, how's it going? Today I wanted to talk about the subject of should voting be compulsory? Well, I think it actually should. Why? Well, because the thing is that for some reason a lot of people are just not voting at all. And then we get to a point where we're at 25% of the population in America voting, and that doesn't seem very democratic to me in some way. Because yeah, I guess it's democratic to have a choice, but then at the same time, well, if you're not able to vote because you're not able to, how can I say, I'll say you won't be able to vote just because you're not able to register, you don't know how, or you maybe didn't think about it, or maybe you just don't want to research the stuff. But at the same time, I think that if people were willing to vote, then you're able to gauge and to make a better decision, you know? And if people are not willing to participate within the government, then how can they be part of society, if that makes sense? Because after all, we're all forced to pay taxes, for example. We're all forced to use money. We all have bills to pay and stuff like that. And at the same time, what's happening is that if you are not paying these taxes, you're fined, right? At the same time. So that's compulsory. And we're still in a democracy, which basically is telling you that you have the choice to do this, the choice to do that, but then you don't have the choice in some way to basically, how can I say, you have to vote because it's important in order to be able to give you the right leaders for the country. Otherwise, you're stuck with whatever that 25% of the population who actually did go to vote decides for you. And it would be undemocratic in some way not to be part of that. So you kind of have to force yourself and look at the way that the world is and not complain about it if things are not going your way, if you haven't actually taken part to try to make a change. And you can also say, yes, there is no point in this because it's not going to make a change, but yes, it does make a change, because strength really does come in numbers. And at the same time, going back to like paying taxes and bills and all that stuff, if you really think about it, once again, it's kind of the law, you know, you get fined if you don't. At the same time, it's the same thing as saying like, hey, if I don't actually follow the rules, follow the laws that are part of my state, my country, or wherever you're at in this world, then you go to jail or you get fined. So it's the same thing. So at the same time, I do think that it is a right it was given to us. A lot of people fought for in order to like get a lot of these people to be able to vote. Same with like getting women to be allowed to vote, getting minorities to vote, getting all the people, me, myself, being an immigrant, I managed to actually come to America and become a citizen. And now I feel like it's my duty, but at the same time, you don't want to just vote in a stupid way. You want to be able to basically study who you're voting for. So yes, take the time. But the thing is that if you take that 3-4 hours of time, maybe even 2 hours if you're fast, and you just study a little bit the people that you are voting for and just at least get an idea, then that gives you the power to choose something that maybe is closer to what you would want. And obviously you're not going to ever get exactly what you want. It's not possible because everybody has different ideas, but at least you can get closer. Because if you don't, and I'm impartial, I don't want to say what party I'm for or whatever, but at the same time I just want to say that it's important to be able to have a choice and to make that choice, and also be able to be part of that change. And if you don't, well, then you can't really complain once your taxes go higher, or the living situation that you have is bad, or if, let's say, you were an immigrant and you lose your status because whoever came up with the new politics of the time is not good. And you've seen it with a lot of other countries. The thing is that there's many countries which were in the Middle East. I'm not going to mention the names of them, but if you went back to the 1940s or 1950s, or even the 1960s, before their governments had changed, and basically it was governments that were not perfect, but at least people were able to do stuff, and then extremists in some way got elected, and then they chased away a lot of the foreigners and stuff, and made those countries the way that they are now. And because they are not willing to play friendly, or willing to abide a lot of the rules that other countries have, then what happens is that they basically get screwed, and those countries, the people are suffering in them, and they're trying to become refugees and stuff like that. And there's a lot of these places, and we tend to forget that just because we do live, being at least in Europe and in America, and a lot of Asian countries are not too bad. They're doing good, but then you go to places in Africa and the Middle East and all that, and you see all these poor people, and there's wars, and the women really have less choice, and it's just sad, and that's the fact, and that's where you don't want to get to that point, because you think you're in a safe place where you're not gonna actually be at risk of having this, but it can happen. I mean, we're back in a pattern where, like in the 1940s, well, actually before the 1940s, in the 30s, where there's the crash of the stock market, and where there's a lot of people that are not able to sustain themselves, and where there's a lot of problems and like a lot of things. And that's the thing, is that if you're not able to sustain yourself financially, then at the same time what's going to happen is that people are going to start complaining, and there's going to be like in France, all these protests for the people to have more money because they're not getting enough, and at the same time schools can protest too, and there's so many protests that are happening, and you can see it in the decline of the stock market and stuff like that. So people are struggling, people are definitely having problems, and usually there's a sort of thing that when people are not happy, when the population is not happy, and it's risking the fact that we can go back into a war. So we are at this point in a sort of safe haven, thinking that everything is protected and everything is good. But then if you really look into it, we're not that far off from what happened just 60 years ago, 65 years ago, and stuff like that. So I'd be very cautious of the state of the world at this point, because if you are not willing to take action on the political side, and at least try to make a change and take those 3-4 hours to just study these people and vote, then you're not going to actually be able to at least try to stop any person who is ill in their mind and wanting to take power. That's all I have to say on the subject. Well, have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.